title of this course is Building Your First Report in Power BI. In the previous two modules, we had to work our way through the prerequisites for reporting in Power BI, getting our data loaded, and ensuring the model is set up to properly support reporting. I'm going to start this module by describing the report development workflow at a high level. We don't just grab data and fling it onto a report page. There's a process to follow, albeit a simple process. Of course, the primary task of report development is to add report elements to a page. So we'll spend some time learning about the different types of report elements that Power BI currently supports. Remember that this is always subject to change due to the pace at which Power BI gets updated. But generally, report elements don't go away. The existing ones get improved and new ones get added. Power BI also provides a lot of different ways to customize the look and feel of your report as well. The extent of customization depends on which report element you're working on, so we'll explore the range of options that you have for the different types of elements. And then we'll wrap up the module by publishing the report to the Power BI service. We'll see what actually gets published and how you can use the report as a basis for building a Power BI dashboard. So let's get going. Before we dive into building a report, let's review the workflow at a high level. Your first step is to choose the report element. It can be a visualization such as a table or a chart, or it can be a static element like a text box or an image. When you make your selection, Power BI adds the element to the current page of the report, and then you can move it around to the location where you want it. You can also resize it if necessary. It's easy to change the location and size later if you change your mind. If you've added a visualization to the page, you need to select the data to display in that visualization. Remember that you can see the fields and measures in the data model grouped by table, and you just need to select the checkbox for the field or measure that you want to include. At this point, you might decide that the original visualization that you selected is not the one that you want after all. So you can easily select a different visualization and all your current field and measure selections stay connected to the new visualization. Now, it is possible that some of these selections do not make sense for the newly selected visualization, and you'll see an error display, but you can easily clear the checkbox for fields or measures to remove them from the visualization. The bottom line is that it's very simple to select the data that you want to see and then to make adjustments to your visualization. Once you're happy with your selections, it's time to polish up the appearance of the report element by configuring one or more format options. You can change colors and fonts and font sizes, just to name a few. The specific format options depend on the type of visualization or static element that you're configuring. My term for the things that you can put into a report is report elements. It's not an official term, but I think it's adequate as an umbrella term for the two categories of things in a report. So that's the term you'll hear me use throughout this module. First, we have visualizations. This category is the primary report element that you put into a report because visualizations are the way that data gets displayed in the report. A visualization can be as simple as a table, and by the way, a table visualization is not the same as a table in the data model. The table visualization is defined as a selection of fields from the model that could be from any table, and as long as you have the right relationships defined, each field is a column in the table. and rows of data associated with those fields are displayed. The relationships, one-to-one or one-to-many, determine the actual number of rows that display. And of course, there are many other visualizations: line charts, bar charts, pie charts, scatter charts, and even more. I won't be able to show you all the possibilities in this module, but I will show you enough so that you get the idea of how to work with them. Then we have static elements. These are the elements that are not connected to data. You might add shapes as a way to organize related visualizations, or maybe add an image like a corporate logo. You can also add text boxes in which you can add background information or instructions about how to use the report. Another option is to add buttons for another type of interactivity option to navigate between pages of the report or enable specific Power BI features. So let's take a look at these two types of report elements. When I created the first visualization that appears on this page, Power BI automatically selected the chart type because there was a numeric value selected in the field list. If I want to create a specific visualization, I need to click on any space in the page so that the boundaries of existing visualizations are no longer visible, and then I can specify the type of visualization that I want by selecting it in the visualization list. This time I'm going to create a table. So I'll select Table, and in the table I'm going to add fields. I'll start with title, movie URL, awards, and nominations. It's hard to read right now, but later we'll adjust the formatting to make it easier to read. I'm going to copy this visualization. Note that it's currently selected because the borders of this visualization display. On the Home tab of the ribbon, I can select Copy and then Paste, and now I can grab the second copy of the visualization by dragging the edges to the right and up to the top right corner of my page. And now with this selected, I'm going to remove all of the values except awards. In the drop-down list, all of the values except awards. In the drop-down list for awards, we can see that the summarization is set to Don't Summarize. When in fact, what I'd really like to do is to set this as a sum. Then I'm going to add genre, and this is difficult to see because it's small, but on your own screen, if you're following along, you should be able to see that all of these values are repeating values, which indicates a problem with the relationship. So we can go to the Manage Relationships button on the ribbon, select the One and Only Relationships, but relationship, a problem with the relationship. So we are repeating values, which indicates a problem with the relationship. So we can go to the Manage Relationships button on the ribbon, select the one and only relationship that we have and select the Edit button. Sometimes, depending on how you are reporting on two different tables, you need to adjust the cross-filter direction. Right now, this is set with a cross-filter direction of single. When we change it to both and click OK and close the Manage Relationships, we can see that the values of awards changes by genre. Now that I have this table displaying values correctly, I want to change this to a clustered column chart. So as long as I have that table selected, the shape of the visualization changes. I'm going to move genre from the axis to the legend, because what I want to see is different colors for different genres. And then I'm going to add in the release year and place that onto the axis explicitly. And so now I can see on a year-by-year basis which genres have the most awards in each year. So we can see, for example, that in most years, the leading genre is drama. I can create one more visualization for this page. I'm going to click in the white space of the report to clear any selections. This time I'm going to select the line chart first, and then I'm going to add release year. And nothing changes in the appearance of the visualization. However, release year was put on axis because it is read as a text value rather than as a value to be plotted on a line. And I'm going to select duration. So we can see over time how the average duration of movies has fluctuated over the years, with the average duration in 2015 being the highest of this group and the average duration in 2017 being the lowest. So that is a variety of different types of visualizations and how we add fields and arrange items according to the groupings that each visualization holds. We can also add static elements to any page in our report. I'm going to rearrange a few things here so I can make room. So if I grab the edges of each visualization, I can resize and move them. Down, and notice we get some snap lines to help me keep things aligned. That's a great feature. And we have various kinds of static elements. For example, we might want to add an image, maybe a corporate logo. And so here in our Power BI Building First Report data folder, I have a clip art image, and then I can resize that. So that's one example. I can also add a text box. Let's just move this to a location away from our visualizations. And I can type something in here. Let's type a title for our report, and I need to highlight the text and make it larger, maybe bold it, maybe right justify it. And last, I can add different kinds of shapes. The currently supported shapes are listed here. I'm going to use a rectangle and move that up to the top to use it as a background for my image and my text box. Or I could use it to organize different visualizations on the page to group them together. All it is just a decoration for your page, but it doesn't look like I can see my image or my text box at this point. So what I need to do is select that rectangle, go to the Format page, and then if you've worked with tools like PowerPoint, this should look familiar, where you can select an object and send it to the back. Now you won't see that until you deselect. Now you won't see that until you deselect or select something PowerPoint, this should look familiar, where you can select an object and send it to the back, or select something else in your page to see that text box to see that rectangle has been moved to the back. And those are static elements. The other kinds that you might consider are buttons. So you can see that we have arrows and other sorts of things that you can format and create some other interactive options in your report. The default formatting of the Power BI visuals is designed to help you produce a professional-looking report without a whole lot of effort, but you always have the ability to make changes to the appearance of almost anything on the page. Whether you need to conform to corporate standards for colors and fonts, or you just have an artistic flair, you do have a lot of choices. Each visualization has a separate set of customization options, but in general, when working with charts, you can control the appearance of the vertical and horizontal axes, and for any type of visualization, you can change the colors and add a separate title to override the default provided by Power BI. You can configure the background appearance, add a border if you like. You can determine whether a tooltip displays to provide more information to the viewers of your report. And then each visualization has something about it that makes it unique, and whatever those things are, you can usually control its size and color. Whenever you work with a new visual, you should spend some time reviewing its format pane so that you can see what your options actually are. And of course, you can configure formatting for static elements. Everything from adding a title to configuring the background, adding a border, and so on. The main difference is that there are no customization options that are specific to data points, just options that vary according to the specific element that you choose, whether that's a shape or an image. And the last thing you should know how to customize is the page itself. Pages can have tooltips, and you can configure whether the Q&A feature is enabled. By the way, I don't cover Q&A in this course, but you can learn more about it in another of my Pluralsight courses. Modeling data in Power BI. You can also set the size of a page. You can make it smaller or larger as necessary, and you can set the background or define wallpaper. You can set these features on a page-by-page basis. Let's see how we work with formatting. First, you need to select a visualization. I'll start with this one on the top left. And we have this format icon in our visualizations pane. The specific settings that are available here will depend upon what type of visualization or static element that you've selected. Most of them have a general setting, and this allows you to control the position on the page as well as the width. Maybe I want this to be 550. So I can be very precise with my settings and size and position. We can change whether the x-axis appears or not, and we can configure the scale if necessary. We can change the color and the text size, the fonts, and so forth. With the y-axis, we can configure whether it appears on the left or the right, whether it's a linear axis. And one of the things that I like to do is to turn off grid lines, is to create a cleaner appearance. We can change colors for our data if we have specific colors that we want to use for each series. If at any time you don't like the changes that you make, you can always revert to the default. For charts, you can determine whether data labels display or not. You could add images to the background area, the plot area there. You can determine whether a title displays, and you can even change the title to something else if you prefer. And I can change the color of my title, and I could set the alignment to center it within the visualization. And I can even increase the font size. So you have a lot of control here. For the table, I can again have general settings. So I could make this as wide as the top visualization above it. We can set styles. So if you prefer a different type of format, you can experiment with the built-in styles, or you can create your own. And if you go into the grid section, there's text size, and I'm going to change this so that we can actually see what we're looking at here. You can determine the formatting for your column headers. And one idea is to apply conditional formatting. So let's say, for example, right now, I don't know which of these movies has a Best Picture award. And I'm going to format the title by changing the font color. And a dialog box displays asking me how I want to do formatting. So I just want to format it based on a specific rule, based upon that Best Picture count. And I'm going to say if the value is greater than, and a dialog box by changing the font color. And a dialog box displays asking me how I, and I'm going to if the category to web URL. Now we have a clickable link, and as long as you're connected to the internet, then now we have go to the modeling tab and set the data category to web URL. And now we can see that Green Book is highlighted, the others are not. So I can easily see which movies received the Academy Award for Best Picture. Go to the Modeling tab and set the data category to web URL. Now we have a clickable link, and as long as you're connected to the internet, then the link you selected will display. Now, if you want to save some real estate here, instead of having a whole big long URL, you can go to your formatting, and there's a switch here to display the URL icon. So rather than having the entire string displayed, you can just have this link image that is still your clickable real estate here. Instead of having a whole big long URL, you can go to your formatting, and there's a switch here to display the URL icon. So rather than having the entire string displayed, you can just have this link image that is still your clickable link to the applicable movie. Moving to our next visualization, I need to select this. I'll go to the format pane. I'm going to clear the grid lines to be consistent. I'll go to the format pane. I'm going to clear the grid lines to be consistent, remove the grid lines from final visualization here. For our other types of elements, for images, we can deal with scaling, titles, backgrounds, position, borders. And there's something new here. There's actions, and actions will do something based on the user clicking on that item, and then you would associate a bookmark, Q&A, tooltip, or a web URL based on clicking that item. With text, there's a background, position, borders, and so forth. And then for our shapes, we can configure properties related to the lines. If I make this 100%, then that line goes away. I can change colors. We can configure fill, rotate our position. So there you have the range of customization options for each of our elements. Our next set of customization options is for pages. We can rename the page by selecting Rename Page. We also can configure page properties if nothing is selected and we go to the Format pane. pane, we have page information. Here's another place where we could change the name of the page. We can toggle tooltips and Q&A off and on. We can configure the size of the page. So there are some built-in settings, and you can experiment with the various sizes that you have available. And we have settings for the page background and the wallpaper. Right now we have wallpaper set to white. So watch what happens when I change the page background to some other color, and we have 100% transparency on the background. That is my page background. And when I collapse the visualizations and fields panes, you can see inside this dash border that defines the page size, but the remainder of the design area here for the report is white. That represents the wallpaper. If I go back to formatting, I can change the wallpaper to something else. And because I have some transparency behind that page, that black color, that darkens the color of my page background more than I think that I would like. So you can experiment with these settings to come up with an appropriate setting for your requirements. There's one more customization option that you might want to consider, especially if you're deploying your reports to the Power BI service and then people are accessing reports on a phone. So if you go to the View tab of the ribbon and select Phone Layout, you get an image of a phone screen here. And you can then see the visualizations that you have in your report and then drag and drop that information into the grid for this phone. And as you do your drag and drop, you can see the number of squares that any given visualization consumes, and you can adjust this by sliding the edges to match the layout that you want to use. So just drag and drop and resize. You can fill the space or stack visualizations side by side. It does not have to match your layout in your standard desktop view. And there you have your final customization options. Now that you've created your masterpiece of a report, you're ready to share it with the world, or at least the part of the world that you decide to share it with. You have absolute control over who gets to see it. So let's talk about how you publish your report using the Power BI service in the cloud so that you can ultimately share it. The first requirement is that you have your report built and saved in a PBIX file on your computer. The next requirement is that you have a Power BI account created. I'll explain how to do that in the demonstration in case you don't already have a Power BI account. With those two requirements met, you use the publish command in the Power BI desktop application. You'll need to select a workspace in your Power BI service, and that's where the contents of your PBIX file will get stored. A workspace is a container. You can think of it like a file cabinet. It can hold the contents of just one PBIX file, or you can publish multiple files there together in one workspace. And then you can share the workspace with other people in your organization. When you publish your PBIX file, the Power BI service actually breaks it down into separate components. The data set is the data model, which includes the data sources and the necessary connection information in case you need to refresh the data. The data sources we use throughout this course are static, so that option won't work for us. But you might be using a corporate database that's changing daily or even more frequently, so you can set up a schedule to get the latest and greatest data. At any rate, the data set includes this information and your transformations, which you will not be able to see or edit in the Power BI service. And it includes all the data model enhancements, the relationships, hierarchies, model properties, and calculations that you added, and of course the data itself. The other component is the report. So in the desktop application, you see both of these components together, but in the cloud, Power BI separates them. After you publish your file, you and anyone to whom you've given permission can use the data set as a starting point for a brand new report built in the cloud. And as for the report that you just published, it's available for viewing, or you can edit the report in the cloud, but you cannot edit the model in the cloud. Also, you can use items in the report to build a dashboard. A dashboard exists only in the Power BI service, and it consists of multiple tiles, and each tile can be an element from different reports. Whereas a report can show data from only one data set, we can use a dashboard to bring together items from multiple reports. A dashboard tile can also be some other type of content, such as web content or a SQL Server reporting services report, if you have that running in your organization, or it can be an image or a text box or a video. So let's go publish our report so we can see how the Power BI service works. Now that our report is ready to publish, we can go to the Home tab of the ribbon and push the Publish button. If you have not already saved your report, you're prompted to save it first so that you can give it a name. Then if you have not signed in, you'll be prompted to sign in, and if you don't already have an account, you can click the link here to set one up. But you do need to have a Power BI account. After typing in your account login, click the Sign In button, enter in a password. You can select a workspace, which must already exist in Power BI, and you do have a default workspace called My Workspace, so we'll select that. And the amount of time that it takes to publish depends upon the size of the data model. When the publish, here in the left panel is My Workspace, and when I can click adding in much the same reports off of like you can in the application, or overwrite to switch back visuals to a dashboard. And I have no dashboards right now, so let's call this the move. I can create a phone version of the dashboard. My dashboard, I can add additional tiles if I want to link and take it off for but own. You have Now that we've built our first report, we have accomplished the goal of this course. Just to have a general detail, or information, see the funded this course. The data, and then we had to refine the data model, and then finally we were able to build out the report and get it published. There's much more to learn about each of these three phases, and I encourage you to watch the other courses here at Pluralsight related to Power BI so that you can continue on your path of learning now that you have grasped the basics. Thanks for watching, and happy reporting.